Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Military History Chronicles. We got a full house tonight, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Over here, we got Los. Down below him, got over there, we got Dan. And right below me, good old Will B. What's up, everyone? Hot off of a NorCal Sports Network presentation. So now we're over here. Military History Chronicles. We're going to talk a little presidents with military experience. Kind of just to start it off here, it's not in the Constitution that says that a president has a requirement of serving in the military. I think it behooves having someone who's set in a position of being in the military. I think that's important. You are, after all, commander in chief, right? Once you take the oath to be president, you are commander in chief. So, yeah, I think someone needs to have a really good understanding. Either maybe not even served, but has had something to do with the military in some shape or fashion. Of course, there's a lot of presidents who've had military experience. We're only going to touch on three pretty prominent ones. George Washington, you could say, founder of our country, if you want to say, because of the Revolution. Ulysses S. Grant, he was a key component in keeping the Union together. And then, of course, Teddy Roosevelt during the Spanish War, charging up San Juan Hill, and then eventually becoming president. So, yeah, I brought these guys in with me, Los, Dan, and Will, and we'll get at it. Anything you want to? Let's start off with Los. What you got? Anything you want to kind of set it off with?
Oh, just intrigued. I grew up just loving history. World history, American history. It's important to know. It's not something necessary that might get you a job or, help your resume, but it's just good to know what happened before, our generation and how things transgress to where they are, decisions that were made. So when it comes to anything involving, military or anything involving political aspects, it's good to know. It's good to be educated. It's not something that I'm an expert on, but I'm not afraid to learn from the people that know it better than me and take my notes.
Absolutely. Dan, how about you?
Well, I was doing a little research, as like Los, I love history, but I'm not as, buff on history as you are, Eric, but there's 31, according to Military Times, there's 31 presidents that served in the military.
Goodness, what's that percentage in that? Because there's been
46, 45, 46. Yeah. The last president to have served was George W. Bush, who was president, in 2001 through 2009, served 2 terms. He was, wasn't really combat. It was National Guard.
Air National Guard, yep.
Yeah. And, but his father was a U.S. Navy pilot.
Absolutely. Right. Got shot down during World War II.
Right.
Yep. That's fantastic. And you know what? We could even say, it could go even, if you think about it, it's probably even, because some of these presidents, of course, served 2 terms. So, yeah. What you got, B? Or will be?
Well, I'll go ahead and start us off. I think we can make a case that George Washington, if he were around today, he'd probably have a Medal of Honor.
Yeah, because they didn't institute the Medal of Honor until the Civil War. So, right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And if you think about it, he was the only, up to Ulysses S. Grant, which is a nice kind of link there. Mm-hmm. He was the only lieutenant general in the United States military, prior to Ulysses S. Grant. There was no one on. Now, there was something big, as a matter of fact, during the Civil War, because the thing was, no one could ever attain the same rank as George Washington, but he was able to do it. So it's a nice link going from Washington and Grant. But yeah, I think you're hitting on something. If it wasn't for the leadership of George Washington, I'm gonna stick just with the military. If he didn't lead the men like he did, what would have happened? Who knows?
Oh, geez.
And he had to understand the situation too, because he desperately needed the help of the French. We'll get straight into this. And
are you guys surprised that it's not a prerequisite before becoming commander
You know what?
that you have to have served some military? Because how can you be commander in chief if you've not served and understand how the military works from chain of command to everything?
I agree. And I think there's a reason why, and I think it had to do with maybe with when the I don't know. I'm just taking a guess, but I'm pretty sure there's probably some literature written on this during the Constitution Convention. Maybe they were afraid someone is going to become despotic, become a dictator. Maybe that's what they were more concerned. They were more concerned about making this a Republican democracy than being under the rule over someone that is, quote unquote, the man with all the power.
Right.
I know there was a lot of back and forth between the delegates there at the convention. How much power should the executive have? When the Constitution was first being written, it was like they wanted a huge part of it was like pure democracy, which really led to a lot of mob rule. Right. And then they had to change it up. But real quick, before I get into this, I see all the people in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining. Got a lot of people in here tonight, man. Got the regulars, Aaron and Jim, Val, Matt, Senior. I think I said Aaron. Eric's out there. Val Ramos, he's out there. So I appreciate it, guys. But yeah, to Will's point, think about this, because Washington's first experience in the military, he was fighting for the British, right? And this is when we had issues going on with the Indians to the west. When I say west, we're talking about over the Appalachians.
Right.
Look, we're not talking
Ohio
Arizona
River.
or Los Andes or anything like that. We're talking, just over the Appalachians. That was considered, quote unquote, the West.
Yeah.
And
they call it Ohio, actually.
Yeah, Ohio, exactly. Ohio. That's just over the Appalachians, and then upstate New York as well. But yeah, one of his first experiences that they accidentally killed a French soldier on a scout mission, and guess what it led to? The French and Indian War.
Yep.
Which is crazy. But it was his ability to lead men. He showed the traits of a leader. This is early on. So then when the convention came about, I'm talking, this is a different convention. This is going to be the convention of the colonies, and who were they going to have command the Continental Army? It wasn't called the Continental. I'm not sure exactly. I have to go back to what it was exactly called. But yes, he was going to be eventually the commander of the Continental Army. And can you imagine? You're going to take on the British Empire. At this point in time, if I'm not mistaken, it was either this part or, the sun never sets on the empire, right? Because they had colonies all over the place. In the East Indies, in Africa, of course, in North America, you name it, they were the powerhouse. But there was one advantage, and what do you think was that main advantage that Washington had as far as leading his Continental Army?
Well, I mean, he had the experience already.
He had experience, but there's something else. There's something else that's key. He had an ocean between.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that always
between the UK and America. So it's going to be hard for, British to be able to project their power. They got to come across, on sailing ships with their army to be able to do what they wanted. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it took some time, but they were, they still were able to put up a good fight. But right. Yeah, you had an ocean in between. So you had time. There was some lead time there for him to get what needed to be done.
100%. And when they were relaying messages too, it would take months to get
absolutely.
Over there,
So if they needed more men, yeah, you're exactly. So you had the benefit of fighting, quote unquote, on home ground.
Right.
That's a huge advantage.
100%.
Absolutely, it is. And you got to think the biggest point for Washington was Valley Forge. You guys understand what Valley Forge was, right? It's where the Continental Army had a basically during the winter months. Back in these days, it's not so much of this. It's a little bit in these days, but you didn't fight during the winter. You basically bivouacked, and you just waited till spring to come. Waited for everything to thaw out so you can move because you got to remember back then you're marching on foot, no trucks, no airplanes. Yeah, you had ships, but when you're fighting a land war, everything's by by March. But
I'm trying to activate and refresh my memory right off on the fly. So help me out here.
Mhm.
Did Washington run against anybody, or he just was automatically thrown in as the first president? Did he have an opponent? Is what I'm trying to.
I think he was pretty much.
He was appointed.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and then after that, it became an election. Correct.
Right. Okay. Okay. Because I was trying to think, did he run against? I mean, because who would even have a chance? Like,
Right.
this guy just led us to freedom and be in our own country. Oh, let me vote against him. But
And
no.
there was issues with that because they didn't want to have, quote unquote, the position of the executive was very much debated because they didn't want to have that quote unquote king above them. They wanted to stay away from the monarchy.
Yeah, and Jim's touching on right there. John Adams brought that point up. He was a big when it came time for another round of Washington, so to speak. The election cycle. He was the most worried about something like that happening.
Yeah, and but John Adams was also a huge Federalist.
Yeah, he was.
He kind of liked they liked the aristocracy.
Right.
See, there was a big battle. See, we're going to kind of divert a little bit here. There was a big fight on, the common man versus the aristocracy. And there was a huge distrust for the aristocracy for the simple fact that the aristocracy was known as the nobles, the people who had power back at the homeland in the UK. So there was a huge debate on that. But to go back to what Washington did at Valley Forge, he kept that army together.
Right.
They were suffering. It was bad. I mean, just like Thomas Paine famously wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls." So and not only during that time, of Valley Forge, but he was training his army. Because you got to remember, you're getting people from all over the place. A lot of frontiersmen, excellent sharpshooters, but they know nothing about military tactics. And on the same token, you got to give credit to the French, because you had Rochambeau and you had Lafayette, you had all these guys over here in the United States helping, put this army together so that they could fight the British, of course, under the leadership of George Washington.
So
it's fan. Go ahead.
Sorry. Generally speaking, when they talk about greatest presidents of all time, and Washington is always in that discussion, do you guys think that a large part of it had to do with obviously his military victory, or was it the subsequent 4 years of things that he put into place?
I think it was a bit of both, because you got to think about it. He was the president for 2 terms, but he was able to keep the country together when it was just coming on its feet, right? There was a lot of steadfastness that he had. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure he had his issues. He was kind of in the mold of the aristocracy as well, but he was able to keep it together when it could have easily failed. Easily failed. You got to remember this.
It almost did multiple times too.
It absolutely did. I mean, it's a testament to the leadership that he was able to exhibit while he was president. But as far as military leadership, I mean, oh my gosh, the guy was. You got to think about it. He had to make do. This war lasted 7 years. The American Revolution lasted 7 years. It didn't conclude until 1783, something like that. So I mean, and he had a piece of and those first few years were lean, and he was pissed off. There's stuff written out there, and I can't remember where I read it, where these guys are begging for supplies, whether it was food, clothes, ammunition, weapons,
shoes. I mean,
shoes was a big deal.
The biggest one, yeah.
He goes into these cities to meet with the Continental Congress, and he sees all these people living the high life, and he's like, "What?" He was getting pissed off, as he should be. But I mean, his leadership was incredible, but you also got to give it to the French. I mean, I know we ride on the French a lot, but but during that time, would we be what we are today without the French? I don't think we would.
No, they played a part for sure.
I don't think we would. Trying to think. Look at Jim Everett. Yeah. Lincoln is absolutely the best president we've ever had. No doubt about it. We could get it. We'll talk about that on another subject. That he deserves a show all on his own, man. We could go on
Yes.
forever on him. And honestly, he did have a little bit of military experience, not big. He was a captain during the Black Hawk Wars when they were fighting against the Indians. He saw no combat, but he led men. So yeah, and then as I said in the beginning, Washington attained the rank of lieutenant general, which today is a 3-star general.
Right.
And from his time all the way until 1864, you know, when Ulysses S. Grant didn't come on the scene, but that's when he attained his lieutenant generalship. But he has an interesting history. I know more. Okay, this is the guy I'm going to know the most about because, you know, I'm a huge Civil War guy.
Oh yeah, I didn't even bother. I was like, you know, Eric's got this one.
Does anyone want to, or Dan, do you want to take Grant? Anything? I don't know if you want to go on that. I don't know.
On Ulysses Grant?
Mhm.
What do you want me to just?
Yeah, whatever you think. I mean, if not, then I could go on with about Grant because I love Grant.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll take somebody else. I'm a little more
Sure.
more up
Real,
on.
real
No
quick though, going back to George Washington, real quick, if you don't mind. I think he's one of the most badass presidents we had. Don't forget, this guy was a prisoner of war at one point, and he was also a colonel when he was in his 20s. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy was a lead, and you know they had a massive massacre that he encountered there. 900 men were killed in that massacre over there in the Ohio, what they call the Ohio country.
Yeah, you're talking. That's the time when with the French Indian War, right?
Right, and he rallied his troops. He was just a young major at the time. He ran back and forth between the lines because the men were scared because they were being killed by the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And he rallied the troops to bring them back and hold it down.
Hold it down. Yep.
He would have gotten a Medal of Honor for that if that were happening today.
Well, let's not forget the good old crossing of the Delaware. I mean, you see the painting.
Oh, that too.
That was huge. Think
Oh
about
my
it.
God.
This is Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
He caught the Hessians.
The balls to do that during wintertime.
Yes, he caught the Hessians with their pants down because
Right.
he knew that they're going to be celebrating Christmas Eve. So what better time to hit them when they're going to be drunk and hungover? Lo and behold, he was able to cross without being spotted, which is incredible.
Oh my God. All those
And then
men.
was able, and then next thing you know, it's on.
Yeah.
It was fantastic what he was able to do that. And then also, who knows what had happened? What if they were able to bomb the British fleet in Boston Harbor?
Exactly.
That was another, because Knox, that guy brought up all the cannon up into the heights above Boston, and they could have easily taken him out, but he let him fight another day. But
the one thing I'll say about that I did know about Grant, he was the first of 3 presidents to attend an academy. I think he was the first one to attend. He was part of the Army, I believe, right?
Yeah, he went to West Point. Yep.
West Point, yeah. One question I thought about this when you brought up Grant, he never was a president, but I wonder if you think he would have been a good president, Robert E. Lee from the South.
You know what? Probably, actually.
He had the temperament.
Yeah, he was a really good man.
He did.
And he was divided on whether to join the Union or the Confederacy.
He was
as well.
right.
He almost joined the Union,
and he went with his home state.
Right.
There's a huge debate on that. With the lost cause and all. I think he was an excellent commander, no doubt about it. It's funny because we'll get into this with Grant because Grant was known as a butcher, especially during his overland campaign when he came out to the Eastern Theater. Because he would just throw men at fortified positions of the Confederacy. But the thing is, Lee was actually more of a butcher than Grant was because of the percentages, right? Even though the Union had much more men, the percentage of lost or killed and wounded and missing was far less than what Lee had. So he was actually, but the problem is Lee didn't have a vast supply of manpower.
right?
It was a finite amount, and they were, by the time of the end of the war, they were losing people all over the place.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, they hang people for doing that because hey, you gotta fight for the cause. But yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, I think
Lee
he
and
had
Grant
the
served
temperament.
together in the Mexican War as well.
Yeah,
Oh, Lee was
Yeah.
fantastic in the Mexican. And you know what? And this is where I'm going to begin. Well, first off,
they were all friends.
yes, a lot of the generals, both Confederate and Union, were best friends. A lot of them
Yeah.
served side by side in the Mexican War.
What a badass name, by the way.
Robert
Ulysses.
E. Oh,
Ulysses.
yeah, Ulysses.
Sounds
Yeah,
like a Greek god, man.
Yeah,
Doesn't
but
it?
I did a little homework before the show. That's not his real first name.
No, it's not.
His real
Yeah,
first
very
name
good.
is Hiram.
His
Hiram.
what?
Hiram.
His real first name is Hiram, Hiram.
But the
Oh,
Army
no.
screwed it
Oh,
up. So he
well,
said,
it's not
"Oh,
harem. It's not harem.
Yeah.
Not harem.
Hiram.
Okay.
I don't
Hiram.
think he would have been elected if they would have like Hiram Grant is
who?
going to be your president. No, but when you come in with Ulysses, I'm like,
Man,
oh,
Ulysses, man. It sounds like,
Man,
yeah,
that's
man.
a strong name. That's a
Sounds
strong
like,
name. I should have named my son Ulysses.
man.
There you go.
Oh, but you know, you gotta live up to it though. If you get named that, you gotta live up to it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
you don't see too
Exactly.
many Ulysses walking around the earth right now.
or
When he
Hercules.
was, matter of fact, he really didn't want to go to West Point, but it was a way to get an education.
Yeah.
A little.
He didn't like school. I know that.
No, he didn't. In West Point, he was towards the bottom
Average.
of his class.
Yeah, he was toward the bottom. Yeah. He was,
Now he was a great horseman. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, he is known for to be an excellent horseman. Now the thing back during that time, during West Point, if you excelled in your class, you're going to either be an engineer or an artilleryman. Of course, Grant was neither. He was just a good old infantryman. I don't think was he cavalry. I can't remember. I don't think he was. I thought he was just an infantryman. Could have been cavalry.
I think he was infantry.
I think it was infantry. But yeah, he very mediocre West Point type graduate.
Yeah, I think cavalry reserved like the better.
And then you got Fort Bragg was under Braxton Berry. I see that, Joshua, real quick. They're renaming all over.
I also read that while Grant was very close to Lincoln, of course, naturally being his general, him and Andrew Johnson didn't get along because Johnson was a
Democrat. Dumbass. That's another. He ruined.
Now you want to talk about
Reconstruction.
a list for some of the worst presidents of all time? Well,
Yeah, there you go. Almost
which
got a
Johnson
beat.
you talking about?
Andrew Johnson.
Oh, okay.
He succeeded Lincoln when Lincoln was killed, and
He ruined everything.
Grant did not like him at all.
No.
So
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I got to run, get this clown out of office."
But so his first combat was Mexican-American War. I kind of got into that. That was a little bit, the way it was started was a whole different, it started by Polk, who wanted to expand slavery to the West.
It's kind of interesting when you look at Eric, obviously Washington was general and, pretty much, known as the father of our country in a way. And so after that, I mean, there was a few presidents that did not serve, Jefferson but guys that a lot of the presidents in the early on were part of,
The congressional
combat.
Yep.
They were
they were generals. Yeah.
generals, and it was like that was the drawing pecking order that the nation drew from. Today, you're some kind of tycoon, some shyster.
Good point.
It's
That's a good
unbelievable.
point.
Yeah,
It is. It's people were made different back then than they are today.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just, look, everybody, and I talked about this, everyone has their warts, right? Some are different than others, right? But yeah, I mean, it was just different. It was different back then than it is today, where, it wasn't necessarily about how much money you could spend on a campaign as it is today, because that seems like all it is. But yeah, it's just different. And that's why I love learning about this stuff, because it's more about, don't get me wrong, there's politics are involved from the very beginning. There's politics is always involved, but there was a little bit different in the quality of men that were running the country.
The country, and I don't want to get too far off on this, but I'll just say this: how far we've come from. We're talking about Washington and Grant and even Hayes right after Grant was part of the Army. It was like, okay,
Yep. Garfield.
They're all. You look at today. I'm kind of shocked where we're at today.
Right.
And I'm just going to talk in the Republican Party. We had a guy, Ron DeSantis, who served admirably
Right.
in the Gulf War, right?
Yep.
It was the Gulf War. He's a great family man. He's got no so-called warts or any negative. I mean, everybody's got negatives we talked about, but he's got nothing, no red flags that scream out, and he's a family man. He took Florida from a purple state to a really deep red state, won in a landslide, and the guy's not even considered.
Right.
It's crazy.
That really surprised me that he actually dropped out as quick. And, we're taking a little diversion here, guys. Yeah. That's fine. We do that on here.
But I mean, that's weird. That's weird to me.
That is weird.
The country.
And you know what it is?
Politics.
100%. Exactly.
Special interests. They didn't deal with that, nearly as much. Or if they did, it wasn't out on social media like it is now.
He wasn't making a lot of money on his campaign. So, why?
I mean, if DeSantis ran with the credentials he has, being a governor of one of the top 3 populous states in the union,
correct,
winning decisively, war guy, he's budget wise, he's done all these principles, he's done everything right. If he ran, maybe 10 years ago, maybe he ran in 2016 and there was no Trump, I think he's the president for 8 years.
Yeah, correct. But now the presumptive candidate's going to be there for 4, and then he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
And here's another thing, and Senior kind of brings this up. We're kind of diverting, but that's fine. I like when we discuss this. This is what I didn't like about DeSantis. As soon as he quits, he goes right over to Trump.
100%.
And so that tells me, how much conviction did he have in what he wanted to do? If you're just going to sit there and just because you want political points, to me, I don't like that. That's just me. But yeah, I found it odd that he wasn't able to get as much. I thought it was going to come down. I really thought it was going to come down to Trump and DeSantis.
I did too. And,
yeah, I did too.
And I would have stayed in it if I was him, just because of what Trump may be facing. You don't know.
Correct.
Legally.
You don't know. And I think that's why Nikki Haley's sticking in.
And that's why she's staying in it. And I don't like it, because if something does happen, we're stuck with that.
Yep.
I don't. Who knows what's going to happen, man. We could get into that here and after this, because it's going to get a little bit weird. Yeah, and that's the thing. He's probably curtain favor for getting a vice president, or
maybe, and I think he'd be excellent because he's a governor, and if Trump does actually make it through and is the nominee,
then he's the presumptive,
and then he does win the election. DeSantis is a guy that you could take control of things for another 4 to 8. It could be
correct.
Yeah.
He's young enough to where it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just shows you how much times have changed, where no military background is not even important.
Not even exactly.
And what I'm afraid of is it might set a precedent where now future people with no military background whatsoever are going to be all of a sudden president. I think it has to be a requirement. But
I think one thing we talked about on this channel not too long ago, actually, is if you compare the CVs of presidential candidates or presidents from now compared to, like, say, JFK or Eisenhower, they couldn't hold a candle to either one of those guys, Eisenhower or JFK or Teddy Roosevelt.
It's amazing. Go ahead. You mentioned, I'll just say this, JFK, if he ran today, he'd be a conservative.
Yep.
He would 100%.
Be. Yep.
100%.
That's how far the country has shifted. Because when
Overton's window,
Democrats and Republicans, there was differences, of course, but there was more unity, and there was not that much difference. But rather than what's happened is the Democrats started to go way left, and the Republicans are following them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just becoming more and more liberal, and you don't have conservative policies much anymore.
Right.
And Trump is not a conservative.
No.
To be honest with you, he's not a conservative.
No.
But we'll get into that here in a bit. And to kind of to what Los was saying, talking about presidents without military history, there was a big thing going on when I was still in the Air Force. I was part of the Sergeants Association, and the issues that we were having is how many congressmen don't have military experience. It used to be majority of Congress, people had military experience. It's not happening no more. And the problem is what is Congress responsible for? They're responsible for giving money, right? Yeah. And if you don't understand the principles of military, you can run into some serious issues when people don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to the military.
Right.
But
you think about a president's daily briefings, day after day after day, and what is the percentage of those briefings centered on? Probably a good majority of them are some kind of military aspect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And if your itinerary and your 8 a.m. is this and 9 a.m. is that, and 60 to 70% of it is military, and you have no background on it, you know what I'm saying? Like it does not make
it's
any
scary.
sense. I just hope it doesn't go that way moving forward.
He's waking up, eating breakfast, and reading the cables of what happened the previous day. The cables being, anything that happened was top secret and whatnot. That's all military stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially in this day.
The only thing I will say of Trump, as far as, some of his policies I like. I don't care for his rhetoric. He's just it doesn't have to be that way. But
Correct.
When he was president, he worked and worked. He worked the job.
Yes.
He worked.
Correct.
And we don't see that right now where we don't have anybody who, I don't know what, the current president, how often he works, but Trump was, there early in the morning, worked late at night.
Yes.
George W. Bush
Same.
had a tremendous schedule, very disciplined, took say what you want about people's policies, but took the job extremely serious, guys that were hard workers,
Yeah, correct.
I
can't fault him for that. Not at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Obama was pretty disciplined too.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. But to get back to Grant real quick, he served in the Mexican War. He was a supply guy, if I'm not mistaken, but he served under Zachary Taylor and good old Winfield Scott, good old fuss and feathers himself. But the thing is, he learned under them. That's one thing that I think Grant, he understood the people that he was serving under, and he would put it to use in the future when he attained the same level that these guys got, which is fantastic. When the Civil War came, the guy after the Civil War, oh my God, the guy, he wound up getting an assignment out to Washington State. He was without his family. He got lonely, started nipping at the bottle. He had an issue. He got over it, came back. He had failed businesses left and right. He just prior to the outbreak of the war, he was working in his father's tannery shop. So that just tells you how low the guy kind of went. It's from serving in the Mexican War, and I think I'm trying to remember what he retired as. I think it might have been a captain.
Did you say he did something under Taylor, Zachary Taylor?
Yeah, he served under Taylor. Yep.
Okay. When Taylor was president, you mean?
No, when he was a general in the Army.
Oh, okay. I thought.
Well, the funny thing is, he was serving under Taylor, and then Polk got rid of Taylor and brought in Winfield Scott for guess what? Because he got wind that Zachary Taylor had aspirations to get to the White House.
And he did.
And he wound up doing it. But what is one thing that helps with someone running for president? If you got military victories under your belt. So he tried to circumvent that by bringing in Winfield Scott. Now, don't get me wrong. Winfield Scott, the one thing that Grant learned from him is Winfield Scott was able to disconnect from his lines of communication, live off the land, and was able to go from the eastern coast of Mexico all the way up into Mexico City and sack the town. Or sack the city, I should say. And Grant did not forget that, especially during his Vicksburg campaign.
One thing I was not aware about, I didn't remember about Grant, was he really tried to get the Dominican Republic into the Union. You guys remember that?
No, I didn't know that.
No.
Well, he's not as president?
yeah, something about wanting to use them for bases, and he failed, but he really desperately wanted to try. That was one of the things that I guess was a negative against his presidency. But I mean, we don't know how it would have worked out. But he wanted the Dominican Republic to be part of the Union.
Interesting.
I don't remember studying that at all.
I do know that prior to the Civil War, there was a lot of Southern senators and there was other presidents that tried to make they authorized escapades into Latin America to try to find more land so they can sustain their policy of slavery. They try to go into Central America. They try to go to. They had plans of invading Cuba. I mean,
speaking of Cuba, don't you think it's
right?
Speaking of Cuba, don't you think it's kind of crazy how close they are to pretty much
right
to Florida, and they're a communist country?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
I mean, I remember the whole Bay of Pigs thing, with Soviet Union, JFK. I mean, they thought nukes were going to come and hit us.
Yeah, got close.
Missile crisis.
Yeah, that was a fun episode too.
Put it down.
Yeah. So Grant, he was down on his luck. Then they were forming regiments because the president called. They needed to generate 75,000 men, and he volunteered. He wound up running. He got his own regiment. Well, one of his first battles was the Battle of Belmont, and I love the quote that he had on here. As a matter of fact, guess who he served under? Will, guess who he served under when he was when he first joined the Union in the beginning of the Civil War? He was in the Western Theater. Remind me.
Oh God, was it Sherman?
Nope.
No.
You'll recognize the name.
Oh, was McClellan?
Nope. It was Fremont.
Oh, John C. Fremont. There you go.
It was Fremont. He was the commander in charge of the Western Theater. Of course.
That's right. He was. Yeah.
Yes. Of course, McClellan was in charge of the entire army.
Entirety.
But he hardly had anything to do with the West, to be honest with you. He was whatever. He was.
Well, I got a question for you. Would there be any Vicksburg campaign without Grant?
Probably not, because it was all his. It was all his idea. But in the battle,
you know what started up under Grant in his presidency, that he was conflicted about which way to go.
What's that?
Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yeah.
I mean, talk about like a president being like, okay, I think this way, but if I really think that way, it's going to get me in trouble with the people. And hey, that's it's the hard part about that office is you're going to piss off half the people.
Lincoln had to he had to make tough decisions as well.
Very tough.
I mean, that's why the way he was able to navigate that was just unbelievable. I mean, you want to talk about leadership, man? Woo. Like I said, I'm going to do an episode just on that.
Underrated president.
Here we go. This is what Grant had to say about this Battle of Belmont. It was a small engagement there along the Mississippi River. He goes, because he had a march, he says, at the end of his march, Grant found that Harris, who was a Confederate, he was running his Confederate unit, had abandoned his camp. This one march resulted in no engagement with the enemy, had a lasting effect on Grant. Because Harris had withdrawn his force, Grant speculated that Harris was as afraid as him as he was of Harris. This train of thought deeply affected Grant, and it changed the way he approached battle for the remainder of the war. He would write later, "From that event to the close of the war, I never experienced trepidation upon confronting an enemy. I never forgot that he had as much reason to fear my forces as I had his." And I absolutely love that, because that tells me the guy knows what he's talking about. He's learning on the fly. The guy that he's going to face is just afraid of him as he is as the other guy. So you got to go about your business, right? That's what you got to do. You got to go about your business and try to achieve victory. And that's something that Grant was just, he was able to take the lay of the land and see what's happening. And he could kind of, I don't want to say guess, but he had an uncanny ability to know where the enemy was, what the enemy was going to do. And he had confidence in what he had and had at his disposal. And he knew that he could win the day. Famous quote after Shiloh. Go ahead, Lewis.
I'm sorry. They didn't have obviously social media and nothing like what we have nowadays, but were newspapers already being written at this time?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And he was
people's
wanna
opinions could be, you know, going against the president.
Yes, big time.
Was
Just
that,
as
was
bad
that
as it is
common
today.
though? Did people really write things against a
Yes.
president?
Oh, Lincoln was getting
Lincoln
hammered.
was being vilified.
He was getting
Grant!
absolutely blasted.
Grant, after Shiloh, was getting eviscerated in the press. People want him fired.
Right.
But we'll get into this.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's human nature to want
It is.
everybody fired. I mean, we just had a Super Bowl, you know, with a lot of people want Shanahan fired. You know,
There we go.
I mean, you know, there we go.
There's two.
So,
Misery loves company. That's how it is.
Here's a quick trivia question for you, just to throw out.
Uh-oh.
Name the one and only president who served in the military who was not an officer in the military.
Oh, there's one of us actually. Ooh,
I got to think about that one. Probably someone I don't even know.
yeah. Yeah, listen, man.
I'll give you a hint. He came just before Lincoln.
Really? Buchanan?
Yeah, James
No
Buchanan was
kidding.
not an officer.
Oh, he was a dumbass. Well, that explains it.
You're James Eric. You weren't an officer either,
No,
were
I
you?
wasn't. That's a dig at me. That's a dig at me. Oh my God, that guy,
Private
man.
first class.
What a
and
freaking
you know,
idiot.
I mean, we talk about people who served. Would you consider Abraham Lincoln has served in the military?
Yeah, he was in the militia.
He was in the militia, right? The
Yeah.
Illinois militia.
So he fought in the Black Hawk Wars, but he didn't. He
Right.
didn't. He
But
wasn't in
back then, the militia. You're not military today. Like if you're in some kind of militia, though, you're.
No, you're
you're
a nutcase if you're in the
You're
militia.
dressing up, man.
He would be an easy target for the enemy with that top hat.
Yeah.
Oh man, some dude at 6'4" plus a top hat.
He was
But,
a big dude. He was
the
a
one-
big dude.
The
Yeah,
one
he was.
thing that
He could
Grant
wrestle
was able,
too.
the one thing Grant was able to achieve early in his career was he was able to get the first victories of the Union. The
Yeah.
Union was getting their asses kicked all over the place by the Confederacy. You had the Bull Run. No, it was back. I'm trying to remember the one after Bull Run, but the Confederates are just whipping the Confederates are whipping the Union. But over in the West, you had Ulysses S. Grant still in the Western Theater, and he wanted to go attack Fort Donelson and Fort Henry. Well, actually, Fort Henry, then Fort Donelson. The thing is Henry Halleck, his nickname was Old Brains. He wound up when Fremont got fired by Lincoln, Henry Halleck came in and replaced him. He was against it. You know, he thought it was just too much. It was too brash.
Right.
But Lincoln has a famous General Order Number 1 where he wanted, because he got tired of the generals not doing anything, he wants everyone to attack that was in charge of their, anyone in charge of their, their divisions and their regions in the East and West. He wants everyone just to attack. So Grant took that to Halleck and basically said, hey, you want to disobey what the president is ordering here? And he went down and he was able to take Fort Henry down the, which river was that? The Tennessee? One of them was the Tennessee. The other one, I can't remember what the other one was. Oh my gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's going off memory here. But he took took Fort Henry. They all skedaddled over to Fort Donelson. He went over to Fort Donelson, and he took Fort Donelson, and he achieved the first major victories for the Union.
Right.
And that got him huge headlines, of course, in the East, because that was the first victory. But then came Shiloh, of course, and then, the debacle of that. But the one thing he never gave up, because Sherman is quoted as saying, we sure had the devil's day today. And you know what Sherman said? We'll whip him tomorrow. He knew, even though it was bad, it was pretty bad. All the Union forces got pushed back all the way against the Tennessee River over there at Pittsburgh Landing. He knew they had defensive positions to where there's no way the Confederates are going to continue to fight. And he knew that the Confederacy were fought out. You know what it means? Will, you know what it means by fought out, right?
Oh yeah.
Los, you know what it means when you're fought out?
No.
You just left it all out in the field. You got nothing left.
They're weary.
The tank is empty. Right.
You put it all
So he
out there.
knew. And then he had Lew Wallace was coming down from the north, who got lost during the first day's battle. So he was getting reinforced. And then he had Carlos Buell, who was over to the west. He was marching towards him because they were supposed to rendezvous. He got his men. He knew he had the day. So the next day, they went on a counterattack, and they were able to whoop the Confederacy back to Corinth. And that led to another battle. But I'm just saying, this is Grant, who is at the front lines of all this. Not to mention all the other success he had at Vicksburg. He had success at Chattanooga. Then he went over to the east, and he had the success in the Overland Campaign. He told, he gave approval for Sherman to march across the sea.
I was going to say he unleashed the devil.
Oh,
himself.
he unleashed what they call total war.
Total freaking war.
Total war means it's everything. It's not, you're not killing civilians, but you're affecting them to be able to grow crops.
Yeah.
You steal all their means to make war, whether it was supplies, whether it was their livestock, whether it was, of course, their men. I mean, it was total war. Everyone was affected. And because he knew that's the only way that you're going to break the Confederacy, because they were such a dogged adversary that's what you had to do. You had to bring the fight home to be able to achieve military success. But he was able to do that, right? Just like Washington, he had to persevere through all the failures that they had during the American Revolution. You know, had those tough times at Valley Forge. He was with his men, right? Just like Grant, he was always with his men. The same could be said for Teddy Roosevelt. The guy, man, when he grew up, he was a sickly child. Right. He was not a very, I don't want to say, he wasn't unhealthy, but he had issues with his lungs or something like that. And during his trials and tribulations, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go be a cowboy. So he bought land over in the Dakotas, and he actually built his body up. Okay. And of course, this is also during because he had huge political achievements in his younger days in New York State. But he had some setbacks. His wife and his daughter had died within, I think, was it months of each other? So he kind of went in seclusion in the Dakota territory. But he learned to ride a horse, how to shoot, and he built his body just got stronger. So when it came time for the Spanish-American War, the guy volunteered. Everyone told him, don't do it. This is not for you. He's like, no, I want to be a leader of men. And he actually, because they were going to make him a colonel, he's like, no. Make someone who understands, logistics. Because you got to, when you're a commander, you got to know everything. It's not just about the X's and O's. You got to know about logistics to be able to requisition supplies and how to do all that type of stuff. The quote unquote non-glorious stuff.
Right.
So he took a commission of a light colonel, and he led his regiment in Cuba. And he literally on horseback was leading his men as they were getting mowed down. And he didn't care. He charged. He went straight at the enemy, and they succeeded. And I think just to tell something, I know I'm not going whole. We're kind of going a little bit long. I don't want to go too damn long because I want to get into some other stuff. But it just shows you the men back there were just a little bit different.
Right?
100%. It's just a little bit different.
I wish some of those men were around here to run.
I mean, two of my greatest quotes. They're not, to do with Teddy Roosevelt, but the same cloth, everything. The Battle of Bellewood. We talked about this probably last week.
Yeah, World War I. Yeah.
Where I can't remember. The Marine battalion commander comes up. The French commander meets them. Hey, we're retreating. Get out of here. And he goes, retreat? Hell, we just got here, man.
Yeah.
And they proceeded to force back the Germans by 4 miles into their own lines. And in fact, they were led by their sergeant major, who said, come on, you sons of bitches, you want to live forever? Follow me. And they stormed those freaking. What happened to that? I mean, those are men, man.
Those were men. Absolutely. It was different. And you knew, when the quote, going over the top, when you went over the top, the chances of you dying, it was pretty damn high. It was a massacre on the battlefields of World War. We could get, that's another subject we can hit. But this is what I'm talking about. And I think that tells something. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Washington and Grant and Teddy Roosevelt, you could say that they're war heroes.
Really can.
And they could have been done, right? They could have been said, you know what? That's good enough for me.
I mean, think about it. Teddy was the assistant secretary of the Navy. He had a cushy job.
Teddy
he worked his ass off.
Teddy took the Navy to a whole another level.
Oh yeah,
Teddy, he did. And the funny thing is that I'm reading a book about this. He was the reason why the fleet got as big as it did. The Great White Fleet or whatever. Yeah,
the big stick.
But yeah, and here's the thing. He even said that's an old African proverb. Speak softly, but carry a big stick.
That was Teddy that came up with that, huh?
That was Teddy. Yep, absolutely.
That's one bad MF right there.
I'm telling you, it's
They don't make them.
I think
like
we need
that.
a little bit of that. We need a little bit of that. Look, I'm not saying that you got to go out there and charge a hill. That's not what I'm saying. But we need some. If you could say anything about all three of these men, they were competent. They were determined. They had some intangibles about them that made them good leaders because you had to lead men.
Right.
We need some of that today.
They had some edge to them.
Right. A little bit of an edge to them. Right. Right.
They weren't putting on a show for anybody.
Correct. Exactly. They were there to do some business, and they got it done.
And one thing to keep in mind too, with George Washington, Grant, and Teddy, they weren't campaigning. They were doing their freaking jobs.
They were doing their duty.
I mean,
they really didn't have to.
Now, as far as all three,
is Eisenhower at that level as those three, as far as leaders of men?
I would say so.
Yeah.
But on a different level.
Yeah, not on the ground.
Tier two.
Right.
Because not quite.
He was more because there's three levels of what do you want to call it? Not leadership. Three levels, I guess you could say, of warfare. You got the strategic, the operational, and then the tactical. All three of those guys were probably, Washington was probably at all three. Grant was at all three. And Teddy Roosevelt was probably at the tactical level. And that was it. But with Eisenhower, he was primarily probably at the strategic level.
Yeah, he was what we would call a theater commander in the Army.
Right. So don't get me wrong, you still had to lead men. And I'll give him credit for this too, is he had to also lead multinational leaders as well. He had to have the trust of Churchill. He had to have the trust of Montgomery, Tedder, which is he was the Air Force, the British Air Force guy, along with all the others. I mean, I don't know what his relation. Oh, he had a great relationship with Zhukov.
Yeah, he did
until the wall went up. but
that was not so much on the man himself. It was more the military progressing, where they didn't put too much responsibility on one person. They would, say you have tactical, you have strategic, right?
Well, he has to make that decision. See, he's got to make. Okay, Eisenhower had to decide who was going to be his army commanders. Who was going to? He probably. Well, no, he wouldn't have picked division. He would have left that up to his army because you had at that time, God, what was that? I don't even know. He's higher than army, but you had the army, which is
he was the Supreme Allied Commander.
And an army like the first army, they were responsible for maybe two corps. Two corps was each corps was probably responsible for 3 divisions. You see what I'm saying? So he had to pick his army and his corps commanders, and then of course they went and picked their division commanders and all that. So he had to have an understanding of the people he was putting at certain positions. And I think one of his biggest mistakes is the general he put in charge of the Anzio landing in Italy. The guy was a dumbass.
A lot of guys got killed that day.
A lot of people were killed that day, and he realized that he thought he had the ability, but he was wrong. So
he was playing a different type of chess.
Yeah,
basically.
Absolutely. But I think it's important. We started off the show talking about it's not in the Constitution saying that you got to have military service, but I think it makes a president more well-rounded. Maybe gives him the ability. Look, you have to have an understanding, right? Now, did Biden have an understanding? He probably did, but the problem is his mind's failing him. The guy was a congressman and a senator, so he was part of the Senate Armed Forces Committee, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So, and the judiciary. So I'm sure he's got an idea, but then again, that doesn't mean he's going to make all the right decisions. Not all military people make the right decisions as well. I mean, let's look. I'm not going to put military people, on on a pedestal because trust me, there's plenty of people out there who served in the military who ain't exactly
aren't the sharpest pencils in the
exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly.
You think about vice presidents now and how their role is different from the past. Because I mean, think about it. Like most presidents have military background. You'd want your vice president also to have military background in case something happened to me. I want to leave the country in good hands. But I mean, over the last probably 40 or 50 years, like vice presidents are picked on the ticket more just to, I need to win this certain part of the country or this certain demographic.
Correct.
Just so I can win the.
Yeah, they're not picked on merit. You know, a smart president, smart presidential candidate or who wins his party should pick someone who's actually brighter than them and more able to step in and serve, because they're not going to usurp the president in any situation. But for the good of the country, you put somebody in, you know, like, I mean, Trump, if he picks DeSantis, I think DeSantis is, you know, a better
better choice
to run things, you know, long term. But you know, you talk about Roosevelt, you know, you talk about Teddy. Very interesting. And what was he? Early, like right at the turn of the century, right?
Yeah, he was the youngest president right before Clinton.
1901, I think, 1900.
Something like that.
Yeah. And then what is it? 40, 50 years later, FDR, who was his fifth cousin. Different party.
Yeah, totally different party.
Totally different party. I mean, FDR is the one that brought us in the whole Great New Deal, right? I mean,
yeah, he brought in a Great New Deal. Yep.
So
FDR, amazing president.
You know, a lot of totally two different times of you know, country needed
same bloodline but totally different.
Yeah, different. Totally different. FDR was, you know, there was time, you know, we needed a lot of roadway. We didn't have all the, you know, U.S. interstate system that we have now. I think that was when it was done, right?
No, that was Eisenhower. Interstate was.
I thought FDR brought that in, started it. Was it Eisenhower?
Eisenhower was the interstate, yeah.
Okay.
And you know where he got that idea from? Germany.
The war.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Autobahn. He saw how the Autobahn worked in Germany. He's like, you know what? I think that's going to work.
Think about our interstate system with all the trucking and everything that all this that just moves. I mean, and then we have the railways, but I mean, without truckers, this country is.
If you didn't have the railroad or truckers, we would be.
I mean, I heard that I heard truckers were going to be striking against New York City.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
I don't know if that's going to come to pass.
I guess one of the things they did over there is they increased like the tolls for people going in and out that with driving trucks or something like that. Yeah.
Why would you increase tolls for truckers that are bringing you goods?
I mean, why do I want to give $10,000 debit cards away too?
Jeez.
I mean, it's like they want to make things as miserable as possible for everybody else.
Tell me about it.
Wow.
But where can we go with this now? Because
who was the third president? You mentioned you had Grant. Was it Washington, Grant, and Roosevelt?
No. Yeah. Those are the three I just talked about. But it was because after Washington was John Adams, then after John Adams, of course, was good old Jefferson.
Little TJ.
Yeah, but TJ Hopkins. I mean TJ.
That the Louisiana deal, man, that was a heist. No doubt about it.
Oh, hell yeah, it was.
The Louisiana Purchase you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a heist. Took advantage of Napoleon. Why not, right?
Yeah.
He needed money to fight against the British. So he's like, I'm not doing nothing over there in North America. That's just going to cost me more.
Cool. You guys can have it.
There you go. What was it? $13 million. And there we go.
Freaking clown.
Lewis, he said he had a question when the show started.
I had a question.
Yeah, you said there was a trivia or something you were going to.
Oh, I had a trivia. Out of all the presidents that served in the military, how many of them were generals?
Ooh.
Oh shit!
Not many.
Oh, I have that.
Nah,
many.
don't look it up.
No, I was looking it up. I mean, I
Not
don't.
many.
I
Take a wild guess.
Generals.
At it. Will,
I think it's about 8.
close. Will,
Generals?
stop looking down. Will.
I'm counting on my hand. I got 3 fingers.
I know it was like because I looked at the list. I didn't
Oh.
count them, but it was like I guess in 7, 8, 9, right in there.
So Andrew
Pretty
Jackson.
decent amount of number. How many elevated to generals?
I'm up to 4 now.
And while you're thinking about that, let me ask.
Yes, Eric.
Let me ask a general military question. In order to go from colonel to general, the highest rank, what exactly has to take place? Is that just your higher ranking, officers put you in that position, or
It's different for each branch.
Roundhouse.
For the Army, they have what's called OERs, Officer Evaluation Reports.
yeah,
That's pretty much where it starts. You have to have a certain time in service and time in grade.
certain time of service?
So you have to have a certain time in service and a certain time in the current pay grade you currently have to be promoted to the next pay grade, which would be the rank, obviously. And you have to have all these nice bullet points on your OERs. You have to have, and for the Army, you have to have points. So each award has a certain amount of points to it. So, for example, like a Army Achievement Medal's got 10 points assigned to it. A Volunteer Service Medal's got 10 points. I think a BSM's got like 30. Bronze Star Medal's got 35, so on and so forth. So you have to meet all this criteria first, and then you have to. And same thing for the NCOs too. Like when I was an NCO, when I had to go to board, I had to do the same thing. You would put together a packet. It's got your photo in there, your nice little, your uniform photo with all your awards on it, and you send it in, and you send it to your next higher chain of command. So for me, I would send it to battalion, and for these guys, they would send it to probably a division or a corps to get their approval, and then they would go to a board, and I'm not sure what it is for officers, but at least for NCOs, like they would ask you, you go in front of the board, they'd ask you certain questions. They'd ask you, stuff about regulations, about UCMJ stuff, the military justice stuff like that. And then if they liked you, they pass you, and you get your next rank. Mm-hmm. So one of those kind of a prerequisites used to be back in the day, like if you're going to make rank to a general, like you have to be like a West Point grad, like they call them the ring knockers or a Freemason.
And here's another thing: when you go from colonel, everything up to colonel is kind of with your own grasp. Once you get it to general, you have to be sponsored by a congressman.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I forgot that.
So yes, so to get sponsored by a congressman, you got to be you're getting politics involved.
That's why now
you can't do what you do on NorCal Sports about the Giant. You can't. You got to say that. Oh,
you got to say, oh, hey,
Giants are wonderful. It's blue skies, sunny, and
that's what Eric was talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no clouds on the horizon. I don't see any clouds for the next 6 months. It looks like everything's great.
That's why we call them. We refer to them lovingly as politicians in uniform, because that's essentially what they become.
Now, I think it's kind of always been that way, but it's gotten worse as far as is it more about merit and what you've achieved as a quote unquote colonel in your respective service?
It's more about how what you do for men.
Have you been a leader of men?
Right.
Have you done? It's not about I've set up this program and set up. You got to. It's surface level stuff. I don't like that. I want to get deeper into. Hey, what have you done? If you're Air Force, were you a great squadron commander? Were you a good pilot? Were you good? Not stupid shit. Not like I volunteered to feed the homeless. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
What's wrong with the world in general is not things are not getting given because of merit. We just talked about it on NorCal.
Yeah.
Ramos could hit 750, but he's not going to get the right field job. We have people all across the land in different capacities of jobs getting promoted over somebody that had more merit, more time, and is better at that job for some political reason. And now you're bringing it up that it's even affecting the military. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's wrong. It's so wrong.
What was
old-fashioned
going on
merit. You deserve the job no matter what. should still be in play. And it's not.
you know what? Because what they started promoting the whole person concept. Okay. So me as a supervisor, whoever I was supervising, we have what they call an EPR, evaluation performance report. Same thing what Will was talking about, his type of report. And you had different categories. You had a certain categories about your job, and then your community involvement, your education. So you had to be quote unquote the well-rounded airman to be able to achieve the highest mark for your performance report. Now, if, for example, I was a aerospace ground equipment mechanic, so I wanted a guy, was he a good mechanic? But the problem is, if the guy didn't go volunteer, and I use this, and this is just as a scenario, volunteer to go feed the homeless. Now, is that honorable? Absolutely. But people are doing that just to get that mark on their EPR.
Yep, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So what are you exactly doing? It's not serious, right? And same thing with the education. The problem is there's some guys who are okay mechanics, but then they're working towards their CCAF, which is the Community College Air Force, equivalent to an AA. They're working on their CCAF, or some may even be working on their bachelor's. But they're going to get the higher rating than the guy who busts his ass every day, turning a wrench. Yeah. And that's the part I didn't agree with.
Dude, I love that, because we had people do the correspondence courses.
Right.
And the next thing you know, they're just blowing by people. Like you don't know your job from Adam.
Exactly.
But yet you blow them. Excuse me? That's not how it's supposed to work here.
Exactly. And that's the part I don't agree. Look, because what happens is if you mark them down a little bit, you're affecting their career path.
Yeah, you are.
If they want to attain higher rank as an NCO, they could get blocked because of that. Not because you're a bad airman, but just because you didn't fill certain quote unquote blocks,
right?
And that are boxes, and that's the part that really irked me the most, as far as where we were going, as far as our evaluation performance of our troops. But
the answer to the trivia question, by the way, is 12. 12.
12.
I had 4 for sure, but
damn,
I was a little surprised it was that high.
Yeah, I am too. Actually, that seems really
that's
high.
significant. But you know what? What was the last one? Eisenhower, right? That had to have been the last one. There was no one after Eisenhower that was a general, right?
No. Yeah.
No. JFK. No. Johnson. No. Nixon. No.
No, Nixon was only lieutenant.
Carter. No. Reagan. No.
Interesting. Eisenhower was one of 3 career military men to become president. Taylor and Grant.
Yeah, those are career. Yeah, Taylor. Yep. But hell, George H.W. That guy was a CIA director. That guy was a VP. Whoa. And he was president. Yeah, he hit them all.
He knows a lot.
He also set up the drug trafficking rings in Cambodia and Laos back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
I want to get shot by Hillary Clinton.
What's up, Shardaw? Oh my gosh. But hey, let's see. Where do you guys we could start getting into some more exciting stuff. What's going on in the world?
Dizzle's in the chat.
What's up, I saw that. Shardaw. Man, there's
Hey, you want to know just a little? I just read this. It really is not anything to do with what we're talking about, but the difference of what one man can make. We talk about, in military, one man in sports. In 2009, before Steph Curry was drafted, the Warriors were ranked 77th out of 92 franchises, NBA, NFL, and MLB teams in terms of franchise valuation.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, and the Warriors are number 2 out of 92 and number 1 in the NBA.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're worth $8.2 billion.
Wow.
That tells you the power of.
He's transcendent if you think about it.
Right?
The game of baseball changed because of Steph Curry.
Yeah, we're gonna do a show some night on NorCal just to kind of give you a heads up. The most influential, who's gonna go down as and I've done this before. I've talked about most beloved athletes in Bay
Oh.
Area history.
Mm.
Top
Oh,
10 most beloved, not
Not the best.
not the best, just the most adored, loved, and we'll talk about that coming up in the next week or
That's
so.
That's
We
good.
could transfer that to presidents.
gotta have
Yeah.
Maggio.
Like
Oh,
right now, who's probably, if you would rank them, the most beloved presidents, not just maybe in America, but worldwide.
Ooh, most
Oh, worldwide?
Not the best presidents, but just loved. Like, I don't know.
Kennedy.
I mean, you know, I love Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Every time I read about the way the world reacted when Kennedy was killed, was like,
Yeah.
the world was not just America, the world.
Kennedy.
It stopped. The world stopped.
FDR was probably loved.
FDR for sure. Oh, FDR was so popular that his wife
during-
was president when he died and won.
During
Oh,
this
very
time, because during the time that he was president, he wasn't as beloved, but history says, I think you look back,
Who's that?
Ronald Reagan is
Reagan.
respected as,
Oh,
now
yeah, good call.
history is very kind to him. A lot of people didn't like him from the opposition side, but
Right.
afterwards, when he passed, they respected him. And he was, he just was so witty and carried himself well, got along well with Tip O'Neill, who,
Yes, he worked with him.
Was
Yeah.
there a better
You had to.
speaker? Was there a better speaker than Reagan?
He-
I mean, that guy could
Obama,
give a speech, man.
Obama's a great speaker. But
Oh,
Reagan,
Reagan.
I don't think he
Reagan
was
is-
that Reagan. Reagan could deliver a speech.
Reagan's would, man,
Yeah.
he would even tear up and cry during his speeches.
You know
Yeah.
who's probably beloved? I'm glad you brought this up because I think in a certain way he was Eisenhower. And I love this quote. I have no patience with the extreme rightists who call everyone who disagrees with them a communist, nor with the leftists who shout that the rest of us are all heartless money grubbers.
And that's why he wasn't reelected.
No, he was. He served 2 terms.
Oh, he did? Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
It was his vice
As it
president,
was.
Nixon.
Nixon lost
Nixon.
to Kennedy in the closest race ever.
Yeah, that was close.
was that closer than Gore Bush, though?
Oh, no.
No, Gore Bush. I mean, that came down to
That was-
Hanging Chad.
The hanging
Hanging
Chads,
Chads.
man.
I remember
Right,
that.
right.
Oh, my
You're right.
God.
Global warming.
Oh man, that's
Oh.
a whole nother story. You know who was actually a good man, but he was not a great president. He had good heart, good intentions. Was Carter.
Carter, he did.
Carter was a good guy, but just he was.
You know,
Right.
that
He
whole
was in-
thing,
he
that
was in
hanging,
over his head.
that Hanging Chad thing. I was hoping Bush would win that personally, but
Yeah.
if Al Gore's brother was governor of Florida, do you think it would have turned out different? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Do you think it was?
Probably.
Probably,
Possible.
definitely.
Probably, man.
Probably.
Holy shit.
Who else?
But-
Oh,
You know, we're talking about all these great leaders and military men and everything like that. I mean, if any of the 3 we talked about tonight were in the office right now and through, it would be very interesting to see what they would how they would handle it.
oh.
Exactly.
Very, very different.
Who would be today's? Who would you want? Who does a country, if you could pick a leader today, just out of all the presidents we've had that would be able to put America on it, draw people together, and if you could, and help fix the country today, what's one president that would be able to do that?
Domestically,
Yes,
not internationally. Okay.
domestically.
I'd go back to Kennedy. I mean, he was a great unifier. He could speak to everybody.
Kennedy, yeah,
Kennedy
Lincoln.
or
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
The South couldn't stand Lincoln.
No, and you bring up a good point because the only reason why he was able to get elected president was because the Democrats split the vote. They had
Right.
3 different candidates. Lincoln only won with like 40% of the vote, maybe even less than that.
That's right.
because you had Breckinridge, you had Stephen Douglas, and then there was another candidate. I can't remember who it was that split the vote for the Democrats. So whoever the Republican nominee was going to be president.
I mean, Dan referred to him, but I think Reagan is very underrated, and he's the original "Make America Great." Trump is piggybacked off of that. That was Reagan.
I think Reagan and Kennedy would be great simply because they knew how to speak, they knew how to lead, they were strong leaders, and yet they weren't crazy, one way or the other.
Right.
I mean, Reagan stood by his ground, but he also knew how to negotiate.
What's crazy go ahead, Dan.
I was just saying he knew how to negotiate and wasn't, I don't know what's happened in the last 15, 20 years, but maybe it's only the last 10, but maybe it's this, whatchamacallit in Congress, what do they call themselves, Eric? Thinking of the group. Not the MAGA group.
what are you talking about?
Oh, the Tea Party?
No, not the Tea Party. There's a group of guys that there's about 10, 12 of them. They bought, there's a
group of 8 or something like that.
No, what do they call those guys in Congress? They won't take anything but their way. They're the far right. What's the gosh, what the heck? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, Jim Jordan's one of them.
Yeah, and the guy from Florida, Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
That guy will be right there, Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz.
Oh, what the hell were they called?
What are they called?
Oh, I can't remember. Not Antifa.
Yeah. No, but every time.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
When there's the speaker, they said, "Oh, this group of
one person and a group, like you said, they can't even. They sabotage the entire process.
Right,
I can't
exactly.
think of the guy. I know that Roy guy, Chip Roy's part of it.
Chip Roy's part of it.
There's like they call
I
him
can't
something.
remember.
I'm just driving myself nuts now. I can't think of it, but that's what I'm talking about. That particular type of group, even though I agree a lot with them in principle at times, but they've hijacked the party where it's becomes so there's no reasonable. They won't.
It's like holding the country hostage.
Right.
And what for? Like, what are you gaining out of this? I mean, aren't you supposed to be helping us? I mean, as citizens. I mean, isn't that your purpose?
Right.
There's no compromise anymore. There's no talking to the other side's got the squad, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and other fruitcakes.
Yeah. As great as Kennedy and Reagan were at bringing people together, and the question was who in the past could bring 2024 USA together.
Oh man,
I sadly think I don't think anybody.
I agree with you, Lois. I think we're too far gone.
I think people need to bring people together.
Exactly.
You know what? That's what I was gonna say. I don't think there's anyone out there right
and
now.
There's nobody in the past or the present that can unify. I mean, it's all great. A great 30-minute speech. Everybody gets pumped up. Right. At the end of the day, when you leave your house and you disagree with somebody for this or for that, you go on social media. It's up to us. It's up to the people to just common sense, just find common ground, because we have a lot more in common than we do.
Absolutely.
Opposites.
And and I saw Senior, he mentioned it in the chat, and I 100% agree. I've been saying this for a while. Matter of fact, I mentioned this in a couple of my papers when I was going through my undergrad. Social media has taken on a life of its own. Yep. It's got its positives. Yep. It sure as hell has its negatives.
More negatives.
And that's the problem, as I don't know. I mean, people have to come to their own decision on what they think is healthy, not healthy, whatever it may be. Because what it seems like is it really has dumbed down the population.
Oh, dude.
God, it's called the Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Very good.
Freedom Caucus.
Yes.
I remember what the heck's that name? Yeah. That particular group holds up, everything. Because the Republicans have such a small majority.
and they might wind up losing it. Oh, it's funny. I had to
yeah.
look this up, Dan, because remember this shot? This guy.
Oh, who is
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Oh,
You don't remember this? The Hanging Chads.
The
Hanging
hanging
Chads.
Chad. Yeah, they.
Look at that.
Oh gosh.
I'll never forget. That was just nuts. Made no damn sense.
Yeah, the squad is worse.
Squad is the other end.
definitely. Yeah, they're
But
definitely.
we got a lot of issues out there, guys, and
Will it ever happen in our lifetime?
Oh, did you guys see that thing I sent you the other day on Laura Loomer interviewing people in trying to come across the border? Did
Yeah,
you see that?
Yeah, the
No, I
Somalians.
didn't.
I sent it to you and Will. The guys that
I
were
saw it.
where are they from again?
Somalia. They're all
Somalia.
Somalia.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're just like they're trying to come over, and they love Omar and
Omar,
and
of
Yeah,
course.
they were coming there for them. They don't care about America. They even
Well,
said to
because
they told her, I don't care
It's
about
because
America.
there's a
Yeah.
huge Middle Eastern population in Minnesota and Michigan.
Massive.
right.
Huge.
Well, that's something you could have a show on some night about all of the people that are just the influx of coming over. What is the odds or chances of some type of cells, terror cells developing?
Possible.
And I mean, they're all over different parts of the country. I mean, it's pretty crazy that, these migrants are getting sent to here, to there,
Right.
and
They all meet in Ecuador, and then they all
right.
go up from there. It's like, excuse
And
me.
you know what? There's people getting rich off of this. I'm talking about the
Oh,
cartels.
hell, the
yeah.
cartels and the NGOs.
Yeah, I think I don't know this for a fact, but I would not be surprised that they make more money on human trafficking than they do on their drugs.
Oh, they
I would
have
not be
to.
surprised.
They have to.
Would
They
not
have
be
to.
surprised one bit.
Sick.
100%.
But it's a scary time out there. And now, I mean, we're
Do
in the
you
middle.
guys think it'll ever happen in our lifetime that like the Republican and Democratic Party will disappear and candidates will only run on one party? 4 candidates to run for presidents, all independent.
I tell you, there's a lot of people registering independent right now. I can tell you
Yes,
that.
there is.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because like that's one of the big reasons why you have this red versus blue that's been really turned up.
And you know what though? I'm gonna tell you something right now.
Because I don't care what side you're on. Like there's something you're not going to tell me that everything Republican you think of. Like when I was making, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm throwing it out there right now. When I was making $25,000 a year, I like Democrat. Once I started to make 6 figures, I like the red. I get a little bit more tax breaks. Everybody's going to vote, so to speak, on things that benefit them and their families.
Yes.
So you can't
There's
just
selfishness in
say,
there. Yeah.
I go 100% with Republican beliefs. Nobody can really say that. There's always going to be a few things you're not going to admit it to people, like I just did out on a public forum. But you're not going to admit that I don't believe anything on the other side. We all do. So that's why I said, is it possible?
Well, according to NorCal Sports Network, I hate everybody.
maybe it's 30, maybe it's 30 or 40 years away.
Some of those clowns, but they're banished.
Maybe that's a possible solution. I don't know.
I mean,
You know
I think the 2-party system is just inherently flawed. I mean, we do this thing where every 4 or 8 years we do this big old pendulum switch, and then one back to another, and then nothing ever really gets accomplished anymore.
No, exactly.
Let me ask you guys. Let me ask you this, because right now we have what appears to be lining up as 2 old men that are going to be, 77 and 80 something running for the highest office of the land.
Right.
50% of the populace pretty much can't stand either one and 50%, close to 50%. So is there room? Is this a year where, a lot of people think he's nuts. I don't know a whole lot about him, but RFK Jr. is running as a independent. More people are registering as independent. Could we have some kind of surprise where nobody gets a majority and he squeaks it out with 35%. I mean, you
Might.
can't. But I mean, you got to get the. How do they do it if nobody gets the?
It goes to
270?
the House of Representatives.
Oh, and then who's ever in
Yeah.
charge is going to win.
There you go.
So,
He's gonna-
the Republicans
But
control.
I think how does it go? Wait, is it the House of Representatives or is it each district? I think gets a vote or something weird because they talked about it with the whole 2020 stuff. But you know what? It's another reason why I think RFK could possibly have. I think the Republican Party is fracturing.
Oh, 100%. It's
Oh,
been
Big
for a
time
while.
fracturing.
Big time.
And I think that could
There's a
lead-
lot of never Trumpers in the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
There is, and it's gotten
And-
even worse because everyone's tired of the same. I've talked about this before.
Would you say there's close to 20% of the Republican Party's never Trumpers?
Maybe it could be. Who
If not
knows? It may
more.
be even more.
And
You guys-
you're
you
not
guys-
going to win. You're not going to win the general
Nope.
because the Democrats. It's shocking that they're going to keep Biden. To me,
I don't know
And-
if he will. I don't know if they will.
I can't. I think at the convention something changes and up steps Michelle Obama or
Gavin.
Gavin Newsom, somebody like that.
Oh, my
What's his
God.
name? Just said he's not going to run the
Old
Senator
Manchin.
Joe Manchin said he's not gonna
Wow,
run.
he could. But I
He
don't think the
could've.
Democrat Party's too. I think they're too far left for them.
Oh, they're so far left for him, yeah. But the Republican, I mean, if Trump gets, let's say he gets convicted in one of these things, and he can't, he's not. I don't think that's going to happen because if it does happen, it's probably after the election.
And then he just
Yeah.
What
Somebody
That is
pardon
going to
him.
be must-see
He gets pardoned,
TV when those three debate, and I hope they bring all three of them together.
I don't think they're going to debate, though. I don't think Biden's
I don't think they're going to debate. I don't think
I don't
Trump
think-
would either.
I think Trump would debate. He's already said he wants to debate Biden right now. He's ready to.
But
do
he
it.
want to debate other Republicans.
Oh, other Republicans. Well,
I'll tell you what. If the young people decide to get together and go to the polls, RFK's got a shot.
Maybe.
well, that's what I'm
Biden.
saying.
If the
is-
young people band together and get off their ass,
because who's
He's
he
got
going to
a shot.
attract? He's not going to attract the Democrat vote. He's going to attract a disillusioned Republican vote. That's what he's
Right.
going to do. RFK. That's where he's because, like I said, the left or the Democrats are so far left that they
Yeah.
can't accept what RFK is bringing to the table.
Hey, the
Right?
Democrats don't. Most of those, not all Democrats, but a large majority of the ones that are way left, they don't care if Biden can govern or not. They just want the power. They'll just like,
Yeah.
you know what?
Right.
They could care less. The problem, even more so than with Biden, is Kamala Harris. If she gets put in, I mean, what happens if Biden wins and Kamala Harris becomes the one that ends up having to run it for 3 or 4 years? I mean, that lady's is clueless. She's more clueless than Joe.
I don't know about that. Senior says Biden's pretty middle. He used to be, but he's not. He's the president of the United States.
No way.
clueless
ain't-
Joe Jackson.
He ain't-
Shoeless Joe Jackson, clueless.
Clueless.
Clueless Joe.
Oh man,
Unbelievable.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, I just think Harris doesn't have. She doesn't know how to.
pick the running mate yet?
Who's that?
Trump? Has he picked?
Not
the running
yet. Not yet. He's talked about
I'm-
5 or
I'm
6
just waiting.
guys.
I'm just waiting for Biden to give one of those James Stockdale speeches. Who am I?
Oh,
Where am I?
You see that on Saturday Night Live?
Oh, my
Do
God.
you remember Stockdale on Saturday Night Live?
Oh
Did you
my
see that?
God!
Ross
that was-
Perot's VP pick.
Where am I? Hey,
Who am I? Where
Oh
am
my
I?
God.
that was hilarious. The
Oh.
three of them. Oh man, Ross Perot here. Ross Perot. That guy was.
Yeah,
what,
see, it cost
Cost
Bush's
Bush.
president.
Cost
Yeah, it
Bush.
did.
They
It did.
gave Clinton the election.
And I
Ross
think-
Perot.
RFK could have that similar effect.
Wasn't that a little bit personal though with Perot and Bush with the oil guys?
Oh, yeah.
Most definitely.
He said
It
they
was
were
like-
trying to assassinate him or something. He got a little bit weird. Ross Perot got a little bit
He
weird.
went off the crazy train a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
It's going to be interesting.
D-shot.
You guys have any other discussion you want to talk? 'Cause there's a lot going on out there. There is a lot going on out there.
Oh man, I
It's
saw
scary.
Aaron Rodgers is campaigning with RFK Jr.
Is he really?
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, which war is going to end sooner?
Which war is going to end sooner?
Ooh.
Whichever one ends. Oh, the question is
What do you think? What do you think, Eric?
question.
Oh man, dude, that's...
Which one ends? But which one?
Ooh.
I mean,
Which one ends and
officially,
then which
yeah.
one
Not all
starts?
this. I mean, officially, which one ends?
Oh man,
You
You
guys
talking
are-
about Israel and then Russia, Ukraine?
Yep.
Those two.
Yep.
Oh,
I think the
Somebody's got that as a bet online.
yeah.
Oh.
It's
You
not
know
on
what? It probably
FanDuel.
is. Hold on. I'm going to predict it right now.
yes, Jimmy. The
Predicted.com has
border
the
is a
odds
big
for
issue.
that.
100%. But you know what?
Biden's putting pressure
What
on
do you think,
Israel
Eric?
right now for a ceasefire.
Yeah, but the UN or even the US even voted it down for the
Yeah, the
UN
US,
resolution.
because but that's because they also want Biden's deal to go through.
Okay, I think the way it's looking right now, both of them, it's definitely going to expand in Israel because that northern border is getting ready to just
Yeah.
go up. Right now, I mean, there's still significant stuff, but it's going to get ready to go. And
I don't think Putin's gonna just like stop and say until
he's not.
he gets what he wants.
I've said this before. Xi, Putin, and the Ayatollah in Iran,
I thought you were gonna
it's
Ji
all-
Min.
it's all ideological. They don't care about money. They don't care about, all they care about is expanding their influence in their empire. That's
Well, what's
all they care
scary
about.
is these guys. What's scary about some of these guys is they're getting older and they're not going to live that much longer.
Mhm.
Right.
And if one of them gets to the point and just says, you know what, I don't really care about anybody.
Correct.
And if my legacy's going down, so are you.
Right.
Push that button.
Exactly.
You never know.
I mean,
And that's the problem when it comes to countries with the means of having nuclear weapons. Do you want Iran to have the capability to launch a missile with a nuclear warhead on it?
Thank you, Barack.
Yeah.
Jeez. That was the most dumbest thing I ever heard is what he did there. Given
To Los, to answer your question, which one ends first?
neither.
I think either of them end first.
I
That's
think
just me. I'm kind of a little bit.
And
Feeling on
which
edge?
one does China start before one ends
Yes.
with Taiwan?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll have
Yeah.
3 of them going.
Why
on.
not? I've
Oh,
said
this-
this. I say
Hey.
it constantly on my show. Ask Will. I'm bringing up the map. Let's bring up the map.
I'm thinking the optimum time for China to go after Taiwan is how long would it take them to
How?
conquer Taiwan
Oh,
to what they want to do? How long would it take?
Not
probably a matter of days.
Days, weeks, months?
I don't know about days because
No,
it
I mean,
depends.
What do you think they need? Maybe a solid month or two?
I don't really.
Well, first thing they're going to do is they're not going to invade. What first thing they're going to do is blockade.
Well, they're kind
I
of
mean,
already doing
I
that.
They're going to
think-
blockade, and then how are you going to break a blockade?
Yeah, now you got.
I think they do something around September, October.
You say September, October. Oh, you're talking like an October surprise?
Yeah, I mean, and I think what Biden's is going to be, what's he going to do? And the new president doesn't come in until January. By that time, it's too late.
Yeah. I mean, this is a mess. First off, of course, you got here. Israel's all over there taking care of southern Gaza. Then you got up here in the West Bank. Of course, you got to worry about, and then up here in Lebanon. So this is going to touch off. And of course, the biggest instigators, Iran.
Yeah.
Yemen, still doing their thing, being sponsored by Iran. Everything over here is sponsored by Iran.
And Russia
Iran,
and Iran,
they're
are
now giving them
tight.
ballistic missiles.
Yes.
Right. So we're not going to give them. Well, I'm not going to. Okay, I'll get into that later because I'm going to go on a rant if I start. I'm not going to do that yet. But yes, Iran. Oh, and you know who else? North Korea.
Yeah.
Is supplying the Soviet, or I say, listen to me, the Soviet Union.
It might as well call it.
Yeah, I know. It's supplying Russia with ballistic missiles, and they're using them against Ukraine.
Now, what about the former president of Russia, saying if we don't, Medvedev. I mean, that's probably just hyperbole, but he's just saying, hey, if we don't get our original territory, if you make us give Ukraine back and this and that, we're sending
nuclear missiles. I saw
to
that.
Germany, U.S.
And I think what he's talking about, because back in 2014, they took this eastern part of Ukraine over here. And I think that's what he was talking about, that they're not going to give any of that up. And if they're going to lose it, then we're going to use. Do
you think that's a bluff? I mean, just a hyperbole, or do you think?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. To be honest,
I mean,
you got a lot of people.
Once the nukes start going, I mean, isn't it pretty much it's over, right? I mean, do we all just fry, or
we all die? Now, if a nuclear weapon is used in Ukraine, that doesn't trigger, quote unquote, a Article 5 response. You know, if there was a nuclear missile attack against, one of the NATO members, okay, then we reply with nuclear weapons. Now, here's the question, though.
Would Trump do that, though?
I don't know. Here's the question, though. If, say, whether it's Belarus, Russian forces come through Belarus and attack Poland or Lithuania or Latvia or Estonia with conventional, do we respond with nuclear weapons, or does it drag out into a big giant war?
Yeah, why would we respond with nukes, though? Because they're just going to
exactly. That's what I'm saying. If they invade with just conventional warfare, is our response to respond back with nuclear missiles? Probably not. But who's going to do anything? That's the problem. Who's going to do anything?
I mean, once you start expanding that way, how many men have Russia lost so far in this?
Oh gosh, I've heard different things. I've heard up to 500,000 men.
I was going to say 300 to 500. Okay. And aren't they pulling a lot of guys now that are much older?
Man, they're pulling people from
both
everywhere.
sides are, yeah.
I mean, they're pulling people in their 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah,
your age,
people out of prison, murderers.
My age. Shoot, could you imagine me out there with my bat? I'd be like, shoot, man. I'd be like, I'll get on my inversion table and you can just drop a bomb on me that way.
But things are heating up over here. I keep seeing stuff happening over here with the Philippines, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on? I'm thinking of maybe someday going there. What do we got?
You got the Chinese with their Coast Guard trying to infringe on the Philippines fishermen.
Can't defend themselves again.
Exactly. Where are you over here that you're going to go, Dan? What part of the Philippines?
My wife's from Luzon.
Where's that?
The big island. That's the island with Manila.
Oh, up here.
But it's
what part?
Southern Luzon, lower part.
Lower down this way somewhere.
Blow that up a little bit more. I can't quite read it.
There's Luzon right here.
Yeah.
Is it past Manila or not as far?
Yeah, south of Manila, way south.
Oh, so you're way over here then?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see like Sorsogon on there. I can't see that. It's the province.
Oh, I see it way over here. And there's a bay, Sorsogon Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, you're way over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of okay over there. It's over here.
Gentlemen, I will leave you with a great quote as I tap out. And thank you for the invite for tonight.
You bet.
Very, very enjoyable.
Tap out.
Here's the quote. Here's the quote.
Okay.
And it talks about how we need to come together as a people.
Mm.
Too often we enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. I'm going to repeat that. Too often we enjoy the comfort of opinion. In other words, tweeting, saying whatever we want, without the discomfort of thought
thinking.
and actually thinking about what you're
That sounds like FF Giants Mania guy.
That's John F. Kennedy.
No,
Going there.
no thought at all.
But who quoted that?
Kennedy.
Okay, there you go.
Good old Kennedy.
Good one.
Gosh, we never got into him with his damn military stuff.
Next time.
Absolutely.
Quotes, man. We could do a show on all kinds.
All right, Los, thanks, man.
Gentlemen, thanks.
Great quotes.
Los.
See ya.
Wait, we didn't salute him properly. Oh, he's not a general. Okay.
But it's scary times out there, no doubt
Man,
about it.
I'll tell you, this is pretty amazing, and because I mean, this is almost. I mean, when you get into strategy, I mean, you think about, I mean, I know Will B is a thinker, and when it came to fantasy, that guy was always thinking ahead, looking at. I mean, I saw his, and I was doing the same thing. I was watching his roster. He's picking a defense for the playoffs, like I was a few weeks early, and we're maneuvering. You get into war, and there's some strategy of when to strike.
Yes.
And so the question becomes, we're waiting on China. I mean, I can't see China sitting back at the rate that they want to take over basically, economically, the everything. Why would you not strike when the iron's hot, when the chances is? Why would you pass up this opportunity to wait and see if Trump gets in? I mean, I'm sure China is going to be doing all they can to interfere with our elections, and they're going to want the weakest person who they perceive to be which is they're going to want Biden at his age and his incompetency as far as his mind goes.
Right.
And I'm not saying Biden is I'm saying where he's at today, his mind's not there.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
I mean, 20 years ago, he's a pretty sharp guy.
Right. Right.
But he's not there anymore. Okay. He's 81 years old, and he's obviously diminishing, mental capacity with whatever he's dementia. So why would you not, if you're China and if you're Russia, why would you? And the question would be to you, Eric and Will, is this why we're seeing so much activity right now? Because of the weakness of America.
Yes.
100%.
I've been saying
I'm just surprised China hasn't done so. I'm really surprised China has not maneuvered more or postured more. I mean, I don't know why they aren't, but I can only assume it would happen sometime soon. It makes sense. You got Russia. Iran is definitely pushing like crazy. It's just
Iran, the other one. I mean, is this the opportunity where the world really? I mean, we have some, and I don't want to get this is your show, Eric, so I don't want to say anything that's crazy controversial. That if you want to avoid this, but there is been talk of this whole 2030 situation that. There's a group out there by 2030. They want to have this new, what are they calling it? The, not the New Deal, but the
Green Deal, the Green New Deal.
No, not the Green New Deal, but the New World Order, basically.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. Yep.
And there's another group that's, led by Gates and a couple other people that want to take the 8 billion population down to about 500 million. Less than 1 billion worldwide population, so you're talking annihilating, where's the 7.5 billion people, if that's their goals, and they want to get there. I mean, are we talking, I don't know. I mean, It seems like we're getting a little close to some crazy.
I think we're getting
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I think we're getting there not because of people like Gates, but because of people like Putin, Xi, and the Ayatollah.
And-
That's
what's that saying? Evil prevails if good people do nothing.
Do nothing.
And that's what the U.S. is kind of we're in that situation.
And that's what we have done ever since Joe Biden came into office. And I think here, guys, I think we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. And
Right.
the reason why I say this is because Biden will continually be weak through the rest of his presidency. I don't see no resolute action coming from Joe Biden.
Oh,
If
no.
anything, he's done everything but be firm. His
Well, you heard him the other day when they said if Russia
killed
does
Navalny.
and he says, "Well, what's the consequence?" Well, there's going to be grave, and then he says, "Well, what are those consequences?" And last week he goes, "Well, 3 years ago, he's like 3 years ago they're losing men. They've lost like that's the consequence. It's already been."
Look, Russia is reconstituting itself, and it's no surprise that they're having success on that battlefield. There's a reason why. They're throwing a lot more men at them. The amount of artillery that they're laying in on the Ukrainians is incredible. Ukrainians cannot respond in turn because they have a lack of material to be able to throw back at them.
Right.
It's right now on the battlefield, and what's surprising to me is that all this is happening in the middle of winter. Usually during the winter, both sides will kind of lay low, reconstitute themselves during that time, and then hit them. Well, that's not happening. In Avdiivka, it was basically a meat grinder. Supposedly, the Russians lost 16,000 men killed and wounded. I mean, an astronomical. That's within 4 months.
Wow. And
16,000 men.
Couple of months away from good weather, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And now you got down in the south, Robotyne. It was a pocket that they had, the Ukrainians had during their offensive. But because what happens is, this is getting into military stuff here. When you have a pocket or assailant, you're vulnerable on all sides. Like when you got a firm line, right? Your defensive is good. But when you got a pocket like this, right? Now you're able to get hit from each side and from frontal. And the problem is the Russians, of course, they're going to throw as many men as possible at all three areas at once, of course, associated with the artillery, and they're starting to have success. And that's scary because
let me ask you this, because if we get into a situation where we're spread too thin, we've got wars going on in the Middle East, we've got Russia, Ukraine, and then all of a sudden we've got China, and then maybe, Middle East escalates to something bigger. Do you see any possibility of the draft in the United States being reinstituted?
That would cause a civil war.
If we went to a draft, I think the shit's really hit the fan.
Aren't we getting thinner right now? And then I've heard you guys talk about the quality of our military now is it's just pretty,
dude.
It's hard.
I have to laugh,
hard.
man. I had I used to mentor younger soldiers back in the day after I got out of the Army, and the first time I heard we get bedtime snacks, I'm like, are you
wait a minute.
Hold on a
bedtime
second.
snacks?
You get a what now? Yeah, we get bedtime snacks. Okay, this is definitely a reason why I'm not in the Army.
Like what? Like animal crackers or what?
They get like a freaking child. Like Dan.
And you know what's
they get a little
about
thing
this?
of milk like you would like back in kindergarten.
This is the issue I have.
Oh shit.
We just got done having the Iraq War, 20 years in Afghanistan. We should have a well-trained and disciplined military.
But dude, guys like you and me are gone now. They ran us all off.
That's gonna be the issue. It's like, what do we have now?
The
So
NCO
I don't know.
Corps is nothing, and that's the backbone of any military branch. Is your NCO Corps?
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Non-commissioned officer.
Non-commissioned.
NCO. I think you said
Yeah.
MCO. Non-commissioned officers. Yeah.
But
but how's the enlistment? Is it down?
Oh,
Yeah, last year
they
didn't make the goals.
called me not more than a few months ago. Asking
Oh,
if
so
I
they're
wanted to
not they're not
re-enlist.
even coming close to making their numbers.
Hell no.
No.
I'm 4 years old and fat, and they want to.
Are you you're 40 now?
Well, not yet. I'm about another year away, but I'm
Okay,
pretty close.
But they're calling. So, I mean, because I think like
But could
I've
you
got-
imagine that? You're calling.
I
me
got
of all people?
grandchildren.
I
I
mean,
got
Great
grandsons
reset.
that are, my grandson's one of them. He's probably 10ish. Another one's like 8, but then I got another one that's 4 and then almost 1. So those, I mean, but are they? Could they ever could we ever get into a situation where the U.S. is pulling people that are in their 30s that just hey, we need men?
I mean, they've already increased the enlistment age. I mean, in the Navy, you can join out 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The Army's increased their age too, and the PT scores are minimal now. You're not really required to do a whole hell of a lot. You could be a fat body. I mean, that's what we call it in the Army. And we don't really call it PC terms, but it is what it is. You're overweight. You're overweight. Hell, man. I tell you what, though, they are giving a hell of a sign-on bonus. The guy's like, "Hey, you want 60 grand?"
Yeah, I remember they were doing that. They were doing
60 grand.
$60,000 sign-on.
I'll never forget when I can't remember what
Jeez.
period of time. I think this is around 2000. We had a bunch of people coming into the Air Force, especially specifically for my job, because they were given huge bonuses.
Yeah.
Like $6,000 once you graduated basic, and another $6,000 once you graduated the quote unquote technical school. So they were giving away. They were luring people in with money to try to join, because it was just we were suffering as far as enlistments was concerned. So yeah, they'll do that, no doubt about it. I remember, I think the Army was giving 30,000 away not that long ago.
Oh, yeah, they give depending on the MOS, they'll throw a whole ton of money at you.
Oh yeah.
And then what do you have to commit for? Like 2 years, 5 years? What?
It depends. Usually, I think the Air Force, you were having to commit 6 years, I think. If I'm not mistaken. I think it was 6.
Yeah, it's like 4 and 2, 4 years active, 2 IRR, or another 6 or 6 active and a 2 IRR reserve.
I nominate that SF Giant Mania guy.
Oh man, they would love his ass. Joel starting to have
That's
fun with
funny.
that one.
Ah,
You just call me a what? You just call me a racist? Eat the wall, sucker. Oh man.
that guy. Hey, we let everybody in. We love everybody.
Yeah.
They're yeah. Okay. Why don't you just invite all the terrorists from Iran and Afghanistan, and
That's what I was
just
telling
open
him.
up the borders.
Yep.
I say, go give him your house. Give him
And
your
you know
house.
what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the kind of guy that everybody else. Oh, you don't love. Then somebody says, "Hey, can I stay at your place?" No, not my place, man.
No, they got to
Yeah.
go somewhere else.
Well,
for
here,
that.
and tell me this makes sense. So we got all these issues going on between what Ukraine is doing, or I should say what Russia is doing in Ukraine, the Middle East, the possibility of something happening in the Pacific, and the Speaker of the House decides to put Congress in recess for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
You're
Best
in the
job on
middle
the
of
planet, huh?
February. This isn't Christmas time. This isn't Easter. This isn't any kind of important
Is that
time of year.
was that
Why?
a passive aggressive move? You think? I think it was.
Oh
I mean,
hell
it probably
yeah.
was. But what is that? That shows you're inept.
Yeah, this
You
is
got to
all
do
just
the people's work.
Well, not just that. It just shows you don't care.
We're not going to give
Absolutely.
money to. We're not giving any money to Ukraine.
You're not
so
going to
we're
give
just
no money
gonna
to
shut
Ukraine.
down.
So,
So we're just
and
going
I'm
to
just
shut
going to
down.
shut everything. Don't forget. Listen to this.
There's
These
my
are the
ball
same
going
people.
home.
When's the last time Congress has passed a damn budget? A budget, not a CR. A budget. They haven't.
No,
I think it's been like a decade since they've
Yeah.
passed a damn
probably more
budget.
than that.
It's ridiculous, man.
It's a mess. It's a
It
mess.
is. And
and
that's why I say it's bigger than just at this point in time. I think it's bigger than just one man. That's why I
Well,
don't think even just one president.
can
Even
you
if
show me
they'll-
that area? Show me that area in the Pacific again. You're talking about with China and the Philippines.
Oh yeah.
I
yeah.
make
I mean,
sure I don't.
Nothing to worry about. You got the WHO and the World Economic Forum trying to tell everybody what to freaking do and dictate what they're doing. That's That's a little scary.
Yeah, hell with them.
100%.
But the problem is, you got people in administration who like that. So,
Oh yeah, and that's the worst part about it.
but yeah, here's the situation, and this is the problem. Yeah, we got some carriers in Japan. I think we got some carriers operating out here in the Philippine Sea. You got some allies down in Australia. Not exactly.
Yeah.
Big bullies, if you will.
Right.
I think there's a carrier out here. Whoa, what the heck happened there? Have a carrier out here in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen when if they touch off against Taiwan? They say they blockade Taiwan. How are we going to break that? They're going to see our carrier. They got so many damn missiles to launch at the carriers.
Any
We don't
subs?
stand
Do we
a
have any
chance.
subs that can get?
You've got a lot of
there?
submarines. That's one thing we do have. We have a superior submarine, absolutely. But the thing is, what can subs do? They can do so much, right?
Oh, Eric, my wife is Cebu's a different island, and we're on. She's on. Getting tired. What's it? Luzon.
This is Luzon, right?
Three
Is this
main
all-
islands: Luzon, Cebu. Well, not Cebu. What do they call that? Visayas, and there's three main ones. I can't remember. But show me where this South China Sea is at.
All right, here's South China Sea right here.
Where?
Actually,
Where
gets right here. Oh, here, let me come up. No, you zoom it out. All in this area.
Mm-hmm.
South China Sea.
Okay, and then
Right here, you got the Strait of Malacca,
Uh-huh.
where a large percentage of all the world's goods are shipped through. What's shipping? It comes through here. So China will definitely do something to stop that. Not
And
to
the
mention what
Philippines-
Iran has got going on over here, where they're messing with the shipping over here in the Strait of Al-Babad or Al-Babad, something like that. And then you got the
Have fun with that.
Gulf of Hormuz or the Strait of Hormuz, which they could stop oil flow coming in out of Kuwait and UAE and Saudi Arabia. They decided to do that.
Well, what's interesting is it seems like things
They're all
will
working in concert, and no one's going to tell me otherwise.
cascade eventually into this gigantic global war, and then everybody, I think, at some point, turns on Israel. Is what prophecy says.
Prophecy. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, you're getting a prophecy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But these people, these bad actors, and this is the problem. We have to have strong leadership today. Look, I'm not saying you have to warmonger, but you got to be able to have the means to counteract what these people are doing.
Right.
And if you don't, and if you stand by, I mean, yeah, we're starting to bump up our defense industry now, and I know they're still. I know in Texas they have built a plant where they want to get 3 lines of artillery shells.
Might be some good stocks to get into his defense right now.
But
but
they got it.
Raytheon, yeah.
They BAR. Yeah. What's the other one? There's another one. I can't remember who makes the artillery shells. But
Is it Honeywell? Do they do anything?
I know they used to build planes, but I think it's more other stuff. But it's still a military.
Who bought General Dynamics? Who'd that turn into?
Lockheed, right?
Lockheed.
I think it
I
is.
think
Yeah.
Lockheed.
Yeah.
He's still Grumman out there. But
I heard AI is going to take off too,
absolutely.
as far as
100%.
for stocks.
That wouldn't surprise because that's going to be the big thing right there, especially with military.
AI
stuff.
is supposed to be going to be bigger than crypto, I hear.
I want to, of course, that's the way of the future right now.
Yeah, AI's like it's the wave of.
Got to buy that NVIDIA dip right now.
And the thing is, China is developing AI big time. Russia is developing AI. Matter of fact, they're going to try to. They're talking about weaponizing space, kind of the stuff that we were doing in the 80s during the Cold War. Remember the Star Wars?
Yeah,
we scared the shit out of the Russians or the Soviets with our
AI.
SDI.
Jimmy says AI is scary. That's not the same Jimmy. That's not the same Jimmy I was in our chat.
I have no idea. I think the other one was Jimmy G.
Yeah. No, it's not the same one. No,
okay, good.
Yeah, the other one was Jimmy G. I don't know what those. Man, there's like a 3 or 4 freak shows showed up tonight, man.
I know, it was like all out,
What-
man.
what
Might have
in
been
the
might have
hell?
been the thumbnail with Boris, something. Who knows? But yeah, you get that AI in there, and man, I don't understand enough about it. I haven't studied much of it, but what little understanding I have is you can actually create AI almost impersonate a person,
Yeah.
like a that makes it look like there's the real person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Not necessarily in the
can-
physical sense, but you're talking about
like on a
digitally.
video. Yeah, 100%. They can do all that stuff.
It's scary because they're weaponizing this stuff.
And they
Where
can
you
even
got
take
autonomous
your
systems out
voice.
there.
I got a thing. This has happened now. This happened to me 2 days ago, and it happened a week ago. Somebody, but the last one, I can't remember the first one, but I changed my password. But eBay said somebody signed into my account 2-3 days ago into Jackson, and it came from Jacksonville. And I'm like trying to figure out if it was real, because the other one that came my way was a fake one. They were using the logo of UPS or something, and it wasn't, because I have a UPS account I could tell it was fake. But then I called UPS. I says, "Yeah, we don't." Anyway, but eBay. So how did somebody like signed into my eBay? So I went ahead and, because I happened to use that password for a couple things, so I changed it on a couple things,
Yeah, I get those every once in a while too. Like I had one the other day. Goes, somebody logged in your Facebook account. I'm like, I really don't use Facebook anymore. That's weird.
Yeah. Wow.
Just ignore it, I guess.
I don't know. AI, I've heard people say, I think it was maybe Elon Musk. It was either him or somebody else that said AI can be used, can be very powerful and positive, but it can also be used for some of the most evil things.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, every time they do these little test AI, it always wants to erase humanity. It hates humanity.
Oh,
it's weird. It's I don't know. That's how it's.
Well, what's going to happen if everything gets starting to turn to AI for jobs and stuff? What happens? All of a sudden, people,
Well, they're already starting to do that in my field in insurance. They're underwriting is now being done by algorithms. Most of the stuff that I write will never.
Right.
It'll be parsed through an algorithm first, and then it sees an underwriter, and then and now they're looking at digitizing brokers like myself. But that's I don't know if that'll happen anytime soon.
But he says microchip people soon. There's people already that are microchipped.
Oh, and they're proud of it too, man. Go ahead and take that mark of the beast if you want it.
Yeah.
by all means.
I know Elon with that, what is that, the Neuralink? I guess they did their first patient.
Yeah, they got some poor sucker. Yeah, man,
what happened?
They
put
got
that thing in his head.
The chip in the brain.
Oh my goodness.
Supposedly it's supposed to help with people like that have Alzheimer's, neural functions type stuff. It's supposed to help.
Yeah, I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that some of that stuff with the vaccine, the COVID, that they could eventually use something to turn on with.
Oh, yeah, I heard. I don't know.
I heard about that stuff too.
I don't know. Like they can create.
Hey man, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. What was? There's so much stuff you got.
There is. If you think about it, we've had damn pacemakers. They've been around forever, right? You're putting something foreign in your body, trying to help your body function. What's that?
My brother's got one of those.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam. Elon said people will be able to communicate without speaking.
Without speaking. Well, geez. A lot of people don't speak now.
I don't sell life insurance. Dan, you sell life insurance, right?
Yeah, I do.
There you go, Jim. I sell commercial insurance. I'm business to business.
Yes, I do sell life insurance, Jim. Yep.
There you go. Talk to Dan.
All ages. And I'm a broker, so I don't sell just one. I shop it until I find the best price.
He works for you.
Yeah. I do not work for the insurance company.
That's one thing. I don't ever call me an insurance agent. That will piss me. I'm like, no. I work for you. I'm a broker. That's different.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I put a fee on everything.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, 7 points.
No health requirements. There are some. Yeah, Jim. There's some with no health requirements, depending on the. The more insurance you want, the higher the dollar amount. Generally, they're going to ask you a few questions. Of course, they're not going to give you $1 million. And find out you got all kinds of different things that are affect your mortality.
I'm a fanboy. Did you guys? Okay, this is going a little bit.
Did I hear? Did Larry go? Because I seen a little.
Yeah,
in the chat
so
in
man, he went off on this guy. I
what
logged
happened?
in. Okay,
Tonight?
so yeah, so I just before you guys' show came on, probably about 10 minutes or so before you guys came on, he was in there doing his call-in show.
Right.
And some guy named Stark was like, he called him a Kyle fanboy, and he just went off on this guy for probably about a solid hour or so, just laid into this dude, like cussing and everything.
An hour?
Yeah, just like how freaking dare you? He was full on cussing. How dare you call me a Kyle fanboy? And then he kind of threw the other guy, Grant. He threw Grant Cohn under the bus. Who else did he throw on? Jim, who else did he throw under the bus? There was someone else. I mean, because I was there giving you all these interviews. I mean, it was, he was blowing. Yeah, he was blowing the gasket, Kyle. I mean, he was just going off. And then,
okay, I'll go check that out when I go to bed here.
And Kevin kept on trying to step in and like, okay, Dad, like, please stop. You're going on and on. But no, he couldn't hold the old man back.
Wow.
Yeah,
sometimes things will trigger you.
Oh yeah, I mean, one.
I got a little triggered tonight when the guy started telling me about the, getting people into the country that they should be coming. My wife got denied 3 times. Just wanted her to meet my mom. Before my mom passed, my mom hung in long enough that her visa got approved, and she got here 2 weeks before my mom passed. But I wanted her to see her when my mom she was really in good
spirits,
good spirits, able to go out to dinner and stuff. She was in pain a lot, but the last 2 weeks, she was bedridden. And so the guy really triggered me, because sitting there telling me, it's okay to let people come in illegally when, it was a pain in the butt to get her here legally. I mean, all the things I had to fill out, and
had to jump.
I had to jump pictures of her and I together with family, with friends, us together in different settings, and
that's
pictures
crazy.
of our wedding. And, it's like, they want to make sure, like, I'm not bringing her over here as some kind of slave or whatever.
Right. Make sure, on the up and up. So did that happen towards the end of the show on Larry? I'm going to have to go take a gander at it.
They said middle. Kyle said middle.
Middle of the show? All right, I'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah, it got pretty. Yeah,
what was the guy's name that he started talking to?
Stark. You'll see it when he'll highlight the name, and as soon as he highlights the name, he'll just go off on the guy.
Oh, I'm gonna
have to go take a look at it.
I'm gonna go to bed now and put my ear sets in so I don't wake up my my wife.
I'm gonna go ahead, start doing the music here.
Why am I not there? Before the call, she never rates it before the call. Was it during his monologue before the call-ins?
I guess he never got. You know what? I think people were actually complaining because he wasn't getting to the calls.
Oh,
they like check the green room, and then people were like, it's a black room now.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, he threw F-bombs out?
He was cussing. I was telling you, he was cussing, man.
Wow.
Yeah, he was going off.
Before the Collins. Okay, we're going to have to check
Kevin was trying to hold him back, but he couldn't.
It wasn't working.
The old man was no part of it, man.
That's funny. All right, hey, I want to give thanks to Dan and for Will
Yeah.
and for Los for joining me. We had a good conversation today. Some, talked about some presidents who had some military experience and kind of just delved into why we think that's important. I think
Yeah, it was fun,
I
man.
think it is. Got a little bit into some.
That's good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. First time.
Hey!
Hey,
Yeah. You want to come on anytime? Just let me know.
My first time on YouTube.
That's good. When's the next show? Don't know yet. We'll have to see. I'm thinking because we're already in the middle of the week. I don't know. Maybe Saturday. Maybe Saturday.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow I'm gonna go solo on NorCal.
Will, you join Eric if you want tomorrow on NorCal. I don't know what topic will come up, but I'm going to watch the Warriors-Lakers game and then catch me on the Krug show. Probably about, my guess would be 9:30, 9:45.
9:30 Pacific.
Yeah, I would say. I think the game starts at. Let me check.
Okay, so what I'll probably do, I'll go 8:30 to 9:30, so then everyone could go over to Larry's.
Let me look here and see what time the Warrior game is.
just don't call him a Kyle fanboy.
All right.
Warriors
Good deal.
tomorrow.
You got that notification.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's going to be. It'll start here at 8, so it'll be 10:30. Yeah, probably about 9:30.
About 9:30. Yeah, because he goes a little bit later.
Yeah, so it'll probably start about 9:30.
So yeah, I'll just do an hour and then be done. So then everyone could go to Larry's show. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so catch
Perfect.
that, and then catch Eric tomorrow night. Maybe Will be, maybe
Cliff Martinez. We'll see. I'll throw the link up there.
Surprise, maybe Gabe Kapler will show up. I think we got to put. What we got to do, Eric, is take that Gabe Kapler and put put Los's head on it.
Ah,
Oh shit! Yes.
all right.
Yes. Oh my god.
All right.
That
Get my head off that. Put Los on there.
Shit.
Gabe Los on there?
Or you know what? Or you take a picture of Chardal when he comes on.
Better yet. Okay, I got ideas. I'm not going to give it away because he'll probably circumvent that. So.
All right. Be careful with Chardal. We don't want NorCal sports being taken off the air. With
Maybe not. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I could see. Even though we're having fun, I could see that. Yeah. Okay, Senior. Look, he's got the timestamp 1:36:23. So thank you,
Senior. Thank you, Senior.
Awesome. Good move.
And that's not John chapter 1 verse 36.
No, that is no. Nice. Even though I prefer Corinthians, but that's next show maybe this Saturday. Don't know what it's gonna see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, the world loves to bring the topic to me, so we'll see what happens. But again, thanks for the guys joining tonight. It was fun, and until next time. We'll see you on possibly Saturday. And you'll see me tomorrow. NorCal Sports Network at 8:30. All right, guys. Take it easy.
Peace.
See ya.